Girl, why does it always feel like we're living in a never-ending thriller movie? Every time you turn on the news, some politician is screaming about a shadowy cabal, a hidden enemy, or a secret conspiracy out to destroy real Americans. First it was the communists, then it was the immigrants, and now it's the deep state, the woke agenda, or whatever new radical leftist boogeyman they made up this week. So here's the thing. Fascists need an enemy. And if they don't have one, their whole movement falls apart. That's why they invent plots, manufacture threats, and keep their followers paranoid. And this is what Umberto Eco calls the obsession with a plot, the sixth warning sign of fascism. And baby, this one is a doozy. So hey y'all, I'm Shaniqua, and this I Got Tea. Time to educate America, because clearly somebody needs to. Now before we get into it, hit that like button, share this video, and drop a detective emoji in the comments if you are tired of politicians using conspiracy theories to manipulate people. Today we're breaking down how fascists manufacture fake plots to keep the followers scared, obedient, and ready to attack whatever and whomever they say the enemy is. Now y'all, this tactic isn't new. It's been used throughout history and it's still being used today. So let's talk about how it works, why it's dangerous, and what we can do to fight back. So all right, what is an obsession with plot? Well, it's simple. It's when fascists convince people that their movement is under constant attack by powerful hidden enemies. Now this paranoia serves a few key purposes. It keeps their followers angry and on the edge. It stops people from questioning their leaders. And it justifies extreme actions by making them seem like self-defense. Kind of like destroying Teslas being called domestic terrorism. Listen, by making people believe there is a secret plan to destroy their way of life, fascists can control how their followers think, feel, and react. Now, this is how they turn paranoia into power. So let's get some historical examples of this tactic, because y'all know I like to prove that we've been there, done that, and we can get out of it again. So our first example, of course, the Nazis and the Jewish conspiracy. So again, during the rise of Nazi Germany, Hitler convinced people that Jewish people secretly controlled banks, media, and politics. He falsely blamed them for Germany's economic problems. Y'all, those problems were exacerbated by American corruption called the Great Depression. Oh yeah, and Nazi propaganda pushed the idea that Jews were plotting against Germany and were responsible for everything from unemployment to the war. Now, this conspiracy theory allowed the mustache man to justify genocide and rally mass support for the Holocaust. But that pesky thing called the truth? Y'all, Germany's problems were caused by war debt and bad leadership. But by blaming a hidden Jewish plot, the Nazis created a common enemy to unite people behind their fascist ideology. Now, it's no secret that most people who tend to support fascists just so happen to be the middle class. So let's bring it to another example, McCarthyism and the Red Scare. Now, in the 1950s, when America was supposedly great, Senator Joe McCarthy claimed that the U.S. government was filled with secret communist spies. He accused teachers, actors, and journalists of plotting against America. Without any real evidence, thousands of innocent people were blacklisted, fired, and publicly ruined. And the result? Well, the country was so paranoid that neighbors started spying on each other, and people were afraid to express their opinions. It was a modern-day witch hunt, and it worked. This is why we teachers teach it with the crucible. So let's move on to the third example, the Great Replacement Theory. Now, in recent years, some politicians have pushed the conspiracy that immigrants are being brought in to replace white people in Western countries. I think, though, now with these H-1B visa conversations, that one might be true, but it's done by the people who were complaining in the first place. Anyway, y'all. This theory is used to spread fear, justify racist policies, and create division, kind of like how sending over 200 people who were supposedly Venezuelans, we don't know if they all are, to a prison in El Salvador that has already been called a crime against humanity, when these people actually signed paperwork that said they were going to go home to Venezuela. And yet they're in prison in El Salvador. Something stinks as much as DJT. Now, what was the result of this? Well, y'all, it's tragic. We've had multiple mass shootings. We've had violent attacks that have been inspired by this conspiracy. This is just the same fascist/racist playbook, just with a different name. It's just ironic to me that the people who are the ultimate criminals as immigrants are the ones projecting and pushing back against immigration. I wonder what the indigenous in any first world country would have to say about that. So throughout this, I've given you a few ways this shows up today, but let's really dive into it. Y'all, the first thing is this deep state conspiracy. Now, I'm not going to, discredit the fact that there are depths to this government that we don't know. There are. I mean, there are so many alphabet agencies. I was like, what? That's a what? Like, really? What is that? But that said, it really boggles my mind that politicians claim that there is a secret government working actually against them. And they say that any investigations into their crimes are witch hunts. And the real goal to this, though, is to make their followers never trust the truth. And y'all, that person in office right now has been really good at it, thanks to Steve Bannon. Sorry. And that's why there are all these attacks on journalists and educators. You see, journalists who expose corruption, they tend to be called fake news. They get banned from the White House and Air Force One. Hi, AP News. But the attacks don't just stop on journalists. They go to the education sector, or teachers. And teachers who teach history are accused of indoctrination. That's why I'm here online with you, to make sure you know the truth. Because you see, their goal is to make sure people stop trusting education and facts. This is why you say things like leftist media. This is why you say things like, oh, those educated liberals. And yet the statistics show that the person who put us in this position tends to be uneducated, white, and male, though in this case, female. And y'all, that's even with all of this digital influence and voter suppression and gerrymandering and manipulation. There still were enough of you that they didn't need to do much. And all that misinformation, disinformation, and non-self-education leads to attacks on DEIA and woke culture. Y'all, politicians claim that diversity is a secret plot to destroy America. And so they use fear to justify cutting funding for social programs in schools, because the goal of this is to scare people into rejecting progress. But I'm going to ask you, why do you also agree that DEIA is a problem? And why is it that if DEIA was really the problem, they are not actually targeting the majority of Americans for whom DEIA assists? Because y'all, the truth is, this attack on DEIA or even woke culture is not about diversity, equity, inclusion. Because if it was, all these policies that followed would not have been racist policies. DEIA is for everyone, veterans, differently abled, different cultures, different heights, different sizes, etc. But they wouldn't know that because you'd have to get educated. And just as it has been in every fascist movement, the goal of this is to scare people into rejecting progress, because progress is change, and change can be scary. And y'all, that fear is really understandable. But it should not lead to violence. It should lead to education. It should lead to reflection. It should lead to change within yourself. Otherwise, this is a dangerous thing because it justifies violence. If people think they're under attack, they will act out in dangerous ways. It creates enemies out of innocent people, targeting journalists, educators, and immigrants, which will turn neighbors against each other. It also keeps people distracted because if you're so busy fighting imaginary enemies, you won't notice who is really screwing you over. So here's what we have to do in order to fight back. I need y'all to start challenging conspiracy theories and challenge conspiracy thinking. When someone pushes a conspiracy, ask them, where's your evidence? And if they can't prove it, it's manipulation, not truth. It is opinion, not fact. The second thing you need to be doing is calling out these fake enemies. When politicians blame immigrants, minorities, or teachers, ask them really who's going to benefit from that. Because, spoiler alert, it's never going to be the people they're blaming. It's going to be the people in power who are using that to distract you. Now, your third thing is to actually support investigative journalism. Support independent media. The media isn't perfect, but real investigative journalism exposes corruption. You need to follow and support independent journalists who bring facts, not fear, like the Midas Project. And if you know of others, y'all, please drop them in the comments below so that we can all get educated, because that's our fourth step, is to educate ourselves and to resist fear-based thinking. Because y'all, fear is a powerful tool of control. It's the most powerful tool of control, and your best defense is to actually use critical thinking and knowledge. Listen, if something feels designed to make you panic, stop and verify it, okay? Now, here's the thing. If they have to lie, exaggerate, and invent secret enemies to actually stay in power, what the hell are they really hiding? Ask yourself that. So, if you've enjoyed today's episode, y'all do me a favor. Please engage, share, like, comment, talk back with me. Let's have a conversation, because that's going to help the algorithm, which will then help these videos reach other people and get them educated too. We would not be here if we knew what we needed to know. So, all right, y'all. This has been another episode of I Got Tea. And stay tuned for what's next. I promise they won't like it.